Here we're on the front of our Tiffin open road. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough like you would get with the technician. So we'll be doing a tutorial, going through the components on here, showing you where everything is, with a few tips and tricks along the way. If you have more specific questions or want a bigger breakdown on either maintenance or operation on these components, you can find some of those videos in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section of the Great American RV YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Ask any questions you want down in the comments. Don't miss the next video we put out. So we're going to start here in the front under the hood. We have a little latch under here. You have to take that latch, push it to the right, and then our hood will open up. We'll take a closer look at that right now. We do have our light switch up at the top. Kick that on. We have our 12-volt battery right here. This is going to be for our chassis. So this will be separate from our house. This is only for our engine portion right here. We have our coolant, oil, transmission, air filter, windshield washer fluid, brake fluid, all your normal things that you're going to find on the engine side of things. Of course, this is a Ford chassis. You'd have to bring it to a Ford dealership for any maintenance for the chassis portion of things. We're going to move over to our driver's side over here. Our driver's side, we do have our camera on our mirror. We're going to have the same thing on the passenger side. Those will be active whenever we hit our blinker on our RV when we're driving. Now, we'll notice on our wheels, we have these caps right here. These caps actually remove off of here. That is where the lug nut is exposed. They would have to be removed in order for our wheel to be changed out. A lot of people don't realize that. Our first compartment right here is just storage. Our next one is going to be our hydraulics. We do have a LCI leveling system on here. We have our controls on the inside. We'll go over the operation of that. Our main slide out right here above us for the living room is also going to be hydraulic as well. Now this is where our fluid is going to be. Our fluid, we only want to check that whenever everything is closed. So slide out is closed, our jacks are retracted, then we check for the proper fill level on here. If we have any of that stuff extended or extended or put out, it's going to use the fluid that's in here to fill those valves on that system, and so we're going to have less fluid in here. If we go and top it off, when we retract all that stuff, this is going to overflow and make a huge mess. Now there's override operations for this system. Those videos will be coming out on our YouTube channel at some point. If they're not out already, you can contact LCI and they will walk you through an override process if a jack gets stuck or your slide outs get stuck or anything like that. We're also going to have up in here, this is our leveling sensor right here. That is, you can see where it says front of the RV right there pointed. That is a sensor that's going to help control our jacks so it knows when our unit is leveled out. Two compartments right there, both storage. Have this compartment here we're going to open up. There's just more electronics right there for the controls on your unit. We're not going to go deep inside any of that stuff right there. I'm going to move on down. Once again, more storage. And now we have our water control center right here. Our water control center will start up top. We have our water heater bypass. We would go ahead and kick that on during winterization. So that way when we fill our unit with RV antifreeze, that system will be bypassed and we're not putting any antifreeze in our water heater. We'll go back to normal flow, kick it over, and we're ready to go ahead and use it like normal. Tank flush, that is going to be for our black tank system. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the dump. We have our city water connection. That is going to be used when we actually have a water connection there at the campsite or we're filling in our house. Whatever the case may be, we have a water bib, hook our hose from there to that. With that being said, you do have an inline filtration system right here. Inside there is a filter that can be changed out. We want to make sure our unit is depressurized whenever we go to change this filter out. So we don't want our city water connection and we don't want our water pump on because this will be pressurized. That way when we pull this off, we don't have water spray everywhere. Moving down the line, we have our cable or our tripod for satellite right here. So if the campground has cable, hook it up here. Satellite, hook it up here. That'll go to some ports on the inside. We'll show you by the TVs. We have our solar input right here. If we have another panel we want to go ahead and hook up, put it over here. If we park our unit in the shade or something like that, if we're not getting sun, you can buy another panel. That way you can make it mobile, put it out in the sunlight. Light for the storage compartment here, and our water pump. Our water pump is going to pull from our onboard water storage and supply it to all of our fixtures here if we don't have city water available. So if we do have city water available and hooked up, you want to leave that water pump off. If we don't have city water, we need to make sure we fill our tank. We can kick that water pump on. We'll go ahead and bring water to our system. Of course, you're going to hear your water pump right here kick on when that water pump is running. Now keep in mind, this is an on-demand pump, so if you're in your unit, you might hear it vibrating in there anytime you have your water faucets on. One thing to keep in mind is when you turn your faucets off, this pump should shut off shortly after it primes the system. But if you hear it continuously running and you're sure that all your fixtures are off, you want to go kick that water pump off, because one of two things: either your fresh tank is empty or we have an issue where we have a leak somewhere we want to go investigate. So shut that system off and we can go investigate. This tool right here is for your filtration system over there to be able to pull that handle off. We have a GFCI controlled outlet right here. We can see two buttons on there. One is a test button, one is a reset button. That's going to control the wet location outlets outside. So if you have an issue with those outlets, you want to come here and reset it. Most common cause for those to trip out is we've plugged too many griddles, coffee makers, stuff like that in there, and it's overamped it, or one of those outlets is wet. So if it trips again right away after you reset it, go check those outlets, make sure they're not wet, maybe unplug some of your items and come reset it again. We have our city water or tank fill. So this goes to our city water connection right here. We have our water hose hooked up at our house. We want to fill our fresh tank because we need water with us wherever we go. Turn it over to tank fill, turn your city water on, and then that will begin to fill your tank, and you can monitor how much is in there through the meter on the inside. If we are hooked up at the campground with our city water connection, we don't need our tank. We just want to kick over to city water and we're ready to go. If we're using the water pump function, we want to just be on this valve right here and it'll pull from that tank. Of course, hot and cold for your shower right there. We talked about our water pump. These two valves right here are for our low point drains. We'd open those up and that would drain all your water out of the bottom right here. We do that in preparation for winterization. Your owner's manual will give you a little bit more information on this particular unit. We do have some videos on that in our helpful hacks section, but every unit is different, so I'd refer to the owner's manual. Deep in here, we have our gray tank and our black tank system right here. So we have our valve here. This valve is rotational, so you can go ahead and turn it wherever you need to turn it. We'll see our hole right there with our cover if we want to fill it in. And that is where our hose is going to go to be able to run it over to our sewage port at the campground. It'll drop out of the bottom, run to that sewage port. So if we have that sewage port at the campsite, we have our hose hooked up, we can go ahead and leave our gray tank valve right here open all the time and let that water drain out. That's coming from our showers and our sinks and stuff like that. It can fill up kind of fast, so we can go ahead and leave that open and just let it drain out. Our black tank, however, is going to be coming from our toilet, so that's our sewage, and we want to make sure we leave water in that tank until we're ready to dump. So we want that valve closed until we're ready to dump. So the process for dumping on that is, once again, you have your hose hooked up, you pull that valve right there, let everything start draining out of that tank. During that process, we hook a water hose up to our black tank flush right here. It's going to send water to a jet port in our tank and help push any debris, sewage, so on and so forth down to this valve right here and let it go ahead and head out to that dump station. When we're satisfied with our flush, we turn our black tank flush over there off, come over here, let it finish draining, close our valve, then we go on the inside and start running water through our toilet and filling up this tank. We only want to put maybe 4 or 5 gallons in there, but we want fresh, clean water in that system. That way any deposits that are left in there don't dry up. And that's the whole idea behind keeping water in that tank. If you don't, all that sewage in there is going to dry up, stick to that tank, and it is almost impossible to clean it out after that. So make sure we're keeping this valve closed until we're ready to dump. After we're done dumping, close it again, fill it up with some water, because as you travel down the road, stuff's going to slosh around and it will help clean that tank. throw some chemicals in there as well to help degrade that system. That's pretty much it out here on the outside. We can move on down the line to our next compartment. We have a pass-through right here, then we have our generator. So we have our generator cover we can go ahead and pull off, then we can see the inside of our generator. We do have our start-stop button over here on the side. We would prime this system, holding it down like this, and we would hear the fuel pump kick on. That fuel pump is priming and prepping that system for you to go ahead and start it. We go ahead and hold down the start button, our generator will start and run. Your transfer switch, which is in the next compartment, once it senses generator power, will kick in, so you'll hear that click, and then that system will go ahead and put power to the interior of your unit. Same thing whenever you plug into shore power. We'll talk about that next. So here we have 12-volt power coming in from your house battery system to go ahead and power up your generator for its start. We have our air cleaner right here, carburetor, oil dipstick, all that stuff. We do have maintenance on here. We have a meter on the inside that's going to tell you how many hours are on it. And when in our owner's manual, it'll tell you when we need to maintain this unit, what we need to do at those certain hours. Now it is customer responsibility, just like the engine and other chassis maintenance, to go ahead and take care of those kind of things. Now one thing we'll talk about real quick before we move on is our two 30-amp breakers right here. So this is going to put out 2 legs of power, so you'll have 50-amp service off your generator. And if we all of a sudden lose power inside our unit, we've checked the breakers on the inside, we'll show you later, none of those are tripped. I want to come out here and check the breakers on our generator and make sure these two aren't tripped, or one of them's tripped, whatever the case may be. So come over here, check them. If they're tripped, just go ahead and flip them back on and you should be good to go. Before you flip them, I do suggest turning off some of your components in there. You might have overloaded it. Before you kick this generator back on, maybe AC system, stuff like that, shut it down, then come reset those breakers and see if we can turn those items back on one at a time. Now, important thing about this cover, if you do start it out here, you want to go ahead and put that cover back on there. That way the air circulates properly, otherwise that engine will overheat. So we talked about our transfer switch right here. This is it, just that box right there. Your shore power cord is going to be going into that as well, and your generator power. So it's going to basically decide whether you are using shore power or generator power and feed that system into the inside of your unit. Now generator power is going to be the dominant. If you have both plugged in, it'll start pulling off of that generator. That way when you unplug, it doesn't have to transfer that power over. Our shore power cord running over there, 50-amp service. We want to go ahead and plug that in. Make sure that your AC system is off whenever you plug it in or unplug it, so you don't have a surge unless, of course, your generator is running. More pass-through storage there in the rear. And then, of course, we have our Truma AquaGo, our on-demand water heater. So we'll go over the operation of that on the inside. We'll show you real quick out here. Open that valve. Kick that down, and we do have a little on-off switch right here. So that's basically a technician switch. Technicians out here working, they can easily turn it off and on. Do have a little LED light up there, one down here at the bottom. These can give you some warning codes if there's any errors in your system, so you can come over here and read it off of there. And we also have another video that goes into deeper operation on this Truma system and how we can drain water out of it, and some of the components on there. We'll take a deeper dive in that helpful hacks section of our YouTube channel. Up there you'll see your dryer vent for your washer dryer combo on the inside, and moving down the back here we do have our receiver hitch down here at the bottom with our 7-way plug for towing, for a trailer, car, whatever the case may be. You're also going to have your backup camera right there, right below that Tiffin logo, so that'll kick on whenever we're driving. When we're backing up, we can see behind us. Now we do have that bracket up there at the top. That bracket is for our Lippert on-the-go ladder system. So it's a telescopic ladder that goes up and down, easy storage on our unit. We put it up there, we gain access to our roof. Now that's important because we have sealant up on that roof. We need to check that sealant every 60 to 90 days. It says so in your owner's manual, whether you keep it under a cover, in a garage, out in the sun, out under a tree, no matter what, check that sealant every 60 to 90 days. We're also wanting to check all of our sealant along our trim and stuff like that. Anywhere where we see sealant, we need to check it. We're looking for cracking, peeling, deterioration, anything of that nature. If we find it, we need to go ahead and clean that up and put the appropriate sealant on there. We also need to wash our roof about twice a year. That helps us take a better look at that sealant, and we're also maintaining that roof. It makes our sides a lot easier to keep clean as well. If we're not maintaining that, then manufacturers aren't going to participate in any water leaks or anything on that unit, and you're going to end up having some deterioration in your unit if that water gets in there. Probably the number one thing most customers neglect on their unit, so please make sure you are taking care of the sealant maintenance on your unit. So we'll kick back over. We have our Suburban furnace right here. I'll kick on from our thermostat on the inside. This one's for the rear. We do have another one towards the front. We'll go over that in a little bit. Other side of our pass-through bay storage there in the rear. More storage right here. And then of course we have our pass-through storage up top, and now we have our propane tank system. So we have the on-off valve right here to be able to kick it on and allow gas to flow into our unit. Our regulator is under this box right here. And of course we have our empty fill gauge right there. These two components right here are going to be used whenever they are refilling that tank. Moving down the line, you do have a compartment up there that is to gain access to the valve behind our shower in our bathroom. And then we have our fresh tank right here. Fresh tank, we don't need to carry that water with us all the time. So take what you need. If you don't need some of it, go ahead and just open that valve, empty it out. You also don't want to leave it in there for an extended period of time because that water is going to become stagnant. So open that valve, drain it out whenever you store your unit. We go through our next compartment here. We have more pass-through storage. We can see our vacuum system right here. Our vacuum system does have a bag right there that we can go ahead and change out. All those hoses are going to lead to the inside of our unit where we can go ahead and vacuum our unit. We'll go over more operation on that on the inside. Moving down the line, we have our Go Power solar controller right there. That is going to convert our solar power energy from our panels up top to actual charging power for our battery system. We see that breaker right there to the right. That is our breaker for that system. If it ever trips, you're going to see this little yellow latch sticking out right here. I want to go ahead and reset that system. We'll see various 12-volt breakers throughout our unit. Just know that if you see one like that, that is how it's reset. We have our Magnum Energy inverter right here. This inverter will change 12 volts to 110 power. So it's going to pull off of our house batteries and convert that energy to 110 power so we can go ahead and use it if we don't have a plug-in. We're dry camping somewhere. So we'll go over a little more operation on that whenever we get to the inside. But one thing I'll show you real quick, keep that light on. Under the bottom right here, we do have a little breaker right there. So we see that 30 amp push button breaker. If our inverter system is not working, come over here and check that breaker right there and make sure we haven't overamped that system. And besides that, we are relying on having 12-volt battery power for our unit in order for it to work. So, like I said, we'll go over a little operation on that on the inside, but we will have a deeper dive video once again in our helpful hacks section. It goes over a little more detail on that Magnum Energy inverter system. Outdoor TV right there. Over to the left, we did pass up our other Suburban furnace right there for our living room area. And then of course above it we have access to the back of our refrigerator, and we see our water supply line for our water fixtures. Now keep in mind, whenever we winterize our unit, we do need to evacuate that line and unscrew that, make sure we don't leave water in that system and have it freeze. We do have a compartment right here. Behind here is a little cap. You can pull that cap off and gravity fill your fresh water tank. So if we don't want to fill it up through that city water connection on the other side, we can open that up, stick our water hose in there, and just turn it on, and it will gravity fill to that tank. Back over under our outdoor TV, have that sound bar right there. We do have a USB connection right here for charging, and then once again, like I said, the outdoor TV itself. Below that, we're going to have more pass-through bay storage. Our light on. We have our battery disconnects right here. Our battery disconnect and our inverter switch, okay? So once again, inverter, if we want it on and we want to be able to use it, we need to kick it on right here. If we want our unit to charge, we need to make sure that's on right there, because our inverter is actually our charging system too. So if we want any of our stuff to work, 110, charging, all that, you need to make sure you turn that inverter on. We also have our battery disconnect right here. So that does literally what it says. It disconnects our battery from our system. That way, if we are storing our unit unplugged, it's not pulling off of those batteries. So with that being said, anytime we store our unit and we're not plugged in, storing it somewhere, storage lot, whatever, they don't have plug-ins, turn both of these off so you can save your batteries. If you leave them on, it will continue to drain off of those batteries. Whenever we are using our unit, whether it be in motion, we want our refrigerator to work, or we're plugged in at the campground, generator running, whatever the case may be, turn these on. So the only time you want to turn them off is if you're storing it unplugged. We'll see a couple other 12-volt breakers right here with our legend down here at the bottom. Front panel, G12 panel, fridge, macerator for our toilet, our entry steps, and our COLP detector. All those breakers are right here, so if some of those components aren't working, want to come check those breakers right there. We do have another 110 outlet right there, GFCI protected. And then of course we have our camera right here on our passenger side for that blinker system. Moving on, we have our steps right there. They are 12-volt powered steps. We can open and close our door. We can see they're staying out right now, but if we turn our little switch on right here on our panel right there, those steps will actually go in and out by the sensor on the door. So set up at the campsite, generally most people are going to want them out. Turn that switch off. If you want them to go in and out whenever you go in and out the door, turn that switch on. If you forget to leave them off when you turn your ignition on your unit, those steps are automatically going to come in as a safety feature. Let's go ahead and take a look at our awning next. So our awning is a one-touch system. We hit our button on the inside, that awning will start rolling out. We'll go over where the location that is when we get in there. While it's rolling out, I'll touch on this vent up there. That vent is going to be for your over your stove top. We see on our microwave, we have that fan where we can go ahead and ventilate out. There may be tabs on that vent you have to open up to ensure that that air will go ahead and flow out. Go ahead and close those tabs whenever you store your unit. That way you don't allow any rodents or anything like that to pop out. So let's talk about our awning. Awning, once again, 12-volt powered, motor and everything is in there. We don't have arms, so we don't have to worry about tilting our awning. We do have a wind sensor in there, picks up some wind. We got some movement on there, that awning will automatically retract. Now we don't want to wait until a wind or rainstorm comes for us to retract this awning, because we can see it is going to take a little bit of time. And if wind catches this thing, it's parachute and it's gone, okay? So it's pretty sturdy for a little light wind system, but we have a storm coming in, roll your awning in. You're leaving for an extended period of time, roll that awning in so we can be sure we don't have an insurance claim due to any damage. Now the other thing on there, same thing with rain. Any light rain and stuff, we can handle it. That water will drain off, dew, AC runoff, we're okay. We got a heavy rainstorm, roll that awning in so we don't have to worry about any damages and having to file that under our insurance. It's pretty much everything on our awning. Like I said, we'll show you where the switch is on the inside and how those controls work. For now, let's go ahead and step in. So as we walk in our entry door, we have our second step right there. We undo these latches by just pushing that button, and that's going to give us access to our house batteries. Now on our house batteries, we are going to notice these little caps over here on each battery. That is to be able to pull off and check the water level on our batteries. So we want to make sure that we add distilled water and we keep them above the plates. That's part of our battery maintenance on here, and if we don't do that, those batteries are not going to last as long as we like them to. So make sure we are doing that on a regular basis, checking that every couple months and making sure that water level is correct. Besides that, keep them charged up. Once again, that inverter system is going to be part of the charging on here. You're going to have it plugged in order for it to do that. Of course, we have some information right here about allowing our batteries to freeze. Don't do it. Make sure they are fully charged. We do have a couple of fuses, inline fuses right here in our system that go to various things on our unit. So just keep in mind if we're having some issues, Tiffin has great customer support. You can get them on the phone and they will tell you exactly where to go look for some of this stuff if you have any issues as well. All right, to the left of our steps, we have our first touchscreen panel right here. On that home screen, we'll see our porch, our entry, living room, floor, hall lights, all that stuff. Anytime you see the dual arrows on there, that means that that light is dimmable. So if we hold down that button right there, we can go ahead and dim and brighten back up our lights. Down here we have our light master. Kick that off, kick it back on. Of course, it controls a bunch of our lights in our unit. Backlight is going to be for this panel here. Then we can go to our next screen. This is going to give us our tank levels for our fresh tank, gray tank, and black tank, as well as the current voltage for our 2 batteries on our unit, our house and our chassis. Remember, chassis is going to be for our engine. House batteries are going to be there under the steps that control all of our 12 volts for the house side. Next is going to be our settings button. All that is screen brightness, and right there we can go ahead and hit screen settings. It will let us go ahead and change when we want this screen to auto dim, 1 minute, 2 minutes, so on and so forth. And if we want the default page to go back to basically your home screen right there after a minute. We have our battery on off. That is another disconnect right there. We still need to operate our disconnect down at the bottom when we store our unit. This is a quick on and off. If we are just stepping away from our unit for a little while, if we once again are storing our unit unplugged, hit all the disconnects off. We have that on off switch right there for our steps at the entry door. Of course, our fire extinguisher right there, and then over to the right of all that we have our CO-LP detector. That is safety device, going to warn you of any CO or LP gases in our unit. Little green light right there lets you know it's powered on. We have the little 12 volt breaker for that down in that compartment by our battery disconnect. And as long as it's powered up, should be working. It's good to test it every now and again. Hit that little button, make sure that audible alarm is working. We can take a lighter and not light it. Just press that butane button down and that should set off that system as well. Want to check, make sure that's working on a regular basis. We also need to know that there is an expiration date on here, February 29 on this one. We need to go ahead and change it out when that date comes around. Also throughout your unit, you're going to of course have smoke detectors on there, powered by a 9 volt battery. Daylight savings comes around, go ahead and swap that battery out and make sure that alarm is still working. All right, so let's take a look at all of our dash controls over here as we sit in our driver's seat. We have our mirror controls left and right. We have our mirror heat. Kick that on, defrost those mirrors. Right here we have traction control. This is one of our meters for our generator. That'll let you know what the current hours are. We have our generator start and stop. We can do the same priming right here by holding down that stop button before we start it. The light comes on, let it run for a second, we can go ahead and kick it on. Our auxiliary start is basically a set of jumper cables that is going to go from our chassis batteries to our house batteries on our unit. In the event that our chassis batteries are dead, we need a boost to go ahead and crank them up, or vice versa. So we'd hold that button down right there and we can go ahead and crank up our engine if we have good voltage from our house side. Map lights right there, that's going to control our lights above me. And then of course we have our regular light functions from Ford right there for our headlights and stuff. Same thing for cruise control and our automation there on the screen. Blinkers, no different. Our tow haul mode right here at the top to be able to initiate that if we're towing behind us. We have our Bluetooth mic right here. Go ahead and talk about our radio system real quick once it boots up. But below it we have our driver fan. It's going to initiate that fan up there at the top. Passenger fan is over on the side. We'll get to that one. We have our solar shade right there in the front. That's basically going to be a little see-through shade that drops in the front. We also have our night shade right there. That is going to be one that we kick down at night for more privacy. Have our radio camera function right there, which is going to kick power onto our radio and our camera system if our ignition isn't on, but we want to go ahead and pull off of our batteries on the house side. It'll go ahead and grant us power to that system. So we're waiting on our radio to kick on. We'll talk about our cameras. Our camera is going to, of course, have our backup camera there in the back, our passenger and driver side cameras as well. So whenever we initiate our blinker system right there, our blinker will kick on. It's going to take over that whole screen for those actions. We put it in reverse, the backup camera is going to come on. So you have a good visual whenever those things are initiated. You can go through here and change your modes so you can go ahead and see those items full screen without initiating any of that if you want, or we can go back to our split screen on that first channel. We can do the same thing right here, going directly to those channels. Of course, the 4th channel, there's nothing there. Hit that mode again, and then I'll go back to that. We can turn that system off, hit the power, we can go in our menu, change some of our picture volume, so on and so forth to our preference there as well. So let's jump over to our radio. Pretty simple controls. Our home button will bring us to our home screen. Right there, we do have Apple CarPlay. If we go ahead and plug our phone into our USB system right there, we can have Apple or Android CarPlay on here and be able to put our phone system through there. We also are going to have Bluetooth on here as well. If we hit our little menu button right there at the bottom left, that'll kick up with some more options. We have disc control. We have it right there at the top. We put our CD in. We have our iPod, which is basically play off of our phone, radio, Sirius XM, Bluetooth right there. We would go ahead and have to hook our Bluetooth up. We'd hit that button down at the bottom right corner and select that device. If our device hasn't been added, we hit this plus sign with our phone right there next to it, and then it will start scanning for our system, at which point we need to go to our phone and we need to look for this device name below, and then we could connect our phone to that system. Go back, we'll just hit back to our radio functions right there. We can have our presets and everything, our volume control there on the side. If we do want to use navigation on this system, you have an SD card right here you can input for that Garmin system. And hit that button right there, it'll bring up a couple of options right here. We don't have camera, all your camera stuff's right into here. So a couple of shortcuts in there. It's all very redundant throughout our system. So you can work your way through some of the different systems on there. Of course, your owner's manual is in there for more exact instructions, but most people, you want to know how to hook up your Apple CarPlay and your Bluetooth. We showed you those two things. Moving down the line, we do have our AC controls there at the bottom, 12-volt USB charging right there. We have our hazard lights right here. Now we have our electronic leveling. Let's take a closer look at how that works. All right, so our electronic leveling, our engine is going to have to be running our emergency brake on. We go ahead and kick that system on. We're going to notice our voltage up here. Voltage is very important. The system itself, our pump system, is going to be pulling off our house batteries, and we want to make sure that that voltage is always at a proper voltage before we kick it on. Otherwise, this system will shut down. So we're there at the campsite, ready to hook up everything. Want to go into auto level right off the bat. We hold down that auto level button, and that system will begin to extend those jacks and auto level your system. Now during this process, you don't want to be moving around inside your unit, jumping around, all that stuff, because it can throw off that sensor on there and your unit may not level properly. So try to stay still while this process is being active. So during this process, we're going to notice like the little red light might pop up at different corners of our system. That's letting us know what area is low on our unit. So if we were doing this manually, we could use this to identify which side of our unit is not at the correct height. So then we would click on that side, those rear jacks would extend up, and then eventually that light should disappear, and our green light right here in the middle is going to let us know that it is level. Now, of course, our auto level process is doing that on its own. It's the easiest way to go ahead and level out our unit. So once it's done, it'll let us know everything is a success, and this system will go ahead and kick off. And this system will go back to our regular main menu. Now we have a couple of other options on here. We'll go into our manual level real quick just to run you through that. If we hit enter on that, this is going to let us know where our level is. Okay, so our objective is 0 plus or minus a couple of points on there. And so if we want to go into manual mode because our auto level isn't working, or we want to tweak it a little bit, hit enter, go in our manual, we hold this down for a second, and it's going to jump up on that front end a little bit, and that system will activate those jacks. Same thing in the rear. But we start to notice we have a little blinking light right here. That means that left side is low, just like I was talking about during that auto level. Hold that down for a second, it'll kick those left jacks, and we're just going to bump it until that goes away and our green light comes on, and according to this, we're level and ready to go. We can scroll down a little bit more. Now initially, whenever you scroll down, you're going to hit that manual, that auto retract right there, okay? Auto retract, hit enter to begin, and that system will begin to automatically retract those jacks. That's what we would push whenever we're ready to hit the road. Also to mention in that manual mode is if we want to retract any of these jacks because we maybe overshot a little bit, hold down that retract button until that light kicks up, and then we can hold down this button and it will retract that area. Whenever we want to go back to extending, push it one more time, then we can go back to extending those jacks. So once everything's done, it'll let you know the jacks are up, you're ready to roll, and you put it in drive and hit the road. We do have a deeper dive on this system on there that goes over how to do the 0 point. So if your leveling isn't quite right, it says it's level, but your unit obviously isn't level, you may need to reset your 0 point. So we'll talk about that in one of our other videos in the helpful hacks section. You can go check it out there. All right, moving down the line, we can look over here. We have our passenger fan switch right there for that fan, our map light right there for our passenger as well. Under here is wiring for all of your radio, camera system, all that stuff. That just gives us better access, more storage right there. And now we get to our cabinet above our passenger side. Now this is our controls we were talking about for our awning. It's a simple one-touch system. If we want it out, we click out. That system will go ahead and run out. If there's a tree in the area where our awning is going to extend and we see we're getting close to hitting it, we're not going to be able to extend all the way out, just hit that stop button right there. That awning will stop where it is. When we want to roll it in, hit in. Our LED lights are the same way, on and off. If we have our awning extended and the LED lights are on, we just want to go ahead and close it. Go ahead and close it, hit off, and both the lights will shut off and that system will retract in. Over here to the left, we have our outlet right here. Our top outlet is ignition disconnect. That means that the bottom outlet is ignition locked out. So that plug right there goes to our TV. Everybody asks, how can I override this? Well, Tiffin tells you exactly right there. Maybe just move that to there, and that TV will come on whenever your ignition is on. Here we have some of our other electronics in here. Our Vega Touch Firefly system, that is going to be for our controls on our touch system. We'll go over a little bit more about that on the when we get to our touchscreen panel. But our Vega Touch is our app that we would download. This is that mirror app, and this also gives you the default pin to be able to hook in there to be able to tie into your control system on there and operate some of this stuff from your phone. Now we also have a Wi-Fi switch right here. That Wi-Fi is right there above us. We can have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go. There is a little deeper dive in on that in our helpful hacks section eventually, but for now, if that video isn't up, you want to go ahead and refer to your owner's manual on more information on that Wi-Fi system. This goes into our Magnum Energy system. If we go ahead and just click one of those buttons, it will go ahead and light up. It'll tell us the current charge that we're in. Of course, we're float charging at the moment, and as long as that charge light is on right there, then our system is charging. If we hit that button off, that charging system can go into standby. We're generally going to want that on for our unit. If we have any faults, that fault light's going to kick up. It'll generally tell us the faults on there as well. Now, if we want to invert our system, we talked about that earlier, 12 volts to 110. So we're pulling off of those house batteries and we're changing it to 110 voltage because we don't have a plug-in. In order to do that, we click that on button right there. We see inverter light kick on, and then our system will begin to provide 110 to some of our outlets in our unit. Turn that system off of inverting. We click it again, that invert light turns off. We have no more inverting. Now there is a series of settings and stuff in here that we can go change based on the batteries, stuff in here, much more involved. We're not going to go over that, but you can find that in your owner's manual and maybe some of it in our helpful hacks video when we go over this Magnum Energy system. Your unit should come with a little cheat card like this that gives you a little more information on it as well, kind of quick study guide, quick tips, quick start. So of course we talked about we have our TV here up front in our left cabinet, just another 110 outlet. But as we back up, we can see we have our bed right there above us. We'll go over the operation of that right now. So we have a little key on there to be able to go into our little button up there. We have that lock to keep the kids from playing around with it. We can go ahead and unlock that system, hit our button right there, and drop that bed down. We have a ladder in the back, a little telescopic ladder we can hook right here, gain access to that bed for the kiddos. Run it back up, just hit that up button right there, runs it up, and then we can go back and lock that panel once again, keep the kids from playing around with it. Now, one thing I'll show you after we do that as well is we have our chairs right here. Our chairs can go ahead and flip around to gain more seating in our living room area. So to do that, we'll go sit in our chair. We can hit this latch right here, and now our chair rotates. But one thing we may have to do is adjust it forward because, of course, we do have a wall behind us. May have to flip our seat up a little bit, do a couple of different maneuvers and stuff to get around all that, and then we can go back and readjust it properly as we wish. Driver's seat does the same thing. You're working around your steering wheel right there, so just keep in mind it takes a little work to shift it around and get it in a position where it'll turn, but you can have more seating in this front area. Get it back, go ahead once again, go back through all that maneuvering on there, all the way around until it clicks. So last thing over in this driver's area I want to show you is we have our in and out, or extend or retract for our slide out. Now the reason they put that button right here is so you can put an eye out and see that this chair isn't going to hit that slide out fascia. So we want to make sure that we're always moving our chair up when we're ready to retract that slide so nothing makes contact, and then we can extend or retract that slide. Now, of course, our ignition is going to have to be on and our parking brake set in order for those slides to work. We'll talk a little bit more about our slide out. We do have an override on our touch panel. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. Time being, we'll move on to our dinette booth, which can drop it down into more sleeping. So we hit our latch right here, and this table can actually move in and out, closer, move it away, whatever the case may be, however your preference is for that table, you can go ahead and do that. Now, if we want to drop this down, go ahead and slide it in. You have a little button there at the bottom. Hit that button right there, and now this will drop down, and we can go into our bed portion right there, move our bottom cushions out of the way, drop this down, let it sit, and then we can go ahead and take our back cushions, put it right there, and then we have more sleeping area. Click it up, just pull it up until it clicks, and then we're locked back into our dinette booth. Over here, of course, just our couches and stuff. We're going to see multiple panels around here too, dinette booth, sconce, ceiling lights. That controls all of our lights for our system. It's a Firefly system. All of these things are going to be mounted into the wall. We're going to see a little plug with a wire right there on the back, connecting all of that to our main Firefly system on our unit. Also have some USB charging, all 12-volt control throughout our unit. Moving on to our kitchen, we do have our gas oven right there, as well as our 110 microwave. 110 microwave we talked about, we have that vent to be able to go ahead and send that air out whenever we are cooking on our stovetop. So this needs to be down for travel. It also needs to be down if we want more counter space. To flip it up, we just lift up, fold that back in. Now we can pull these two pins and remove this all together if we wish. You have your 3-burner Suburban stove top right there. Really easy to initiate. Make sure our propane is on. Pick our designated burner, turn it to light right there, and then we're just gonna crank our knob right there until it lights. Now, interesting thing about our propane system is we can get air in our lines. This generally happens because we ran out of propane, or we shut our propane off when we stored it. That propane dissipated out of the line. Now we're going to have air in our system. So in order to fix that issue, just come over here and light your stovetop. It may take a little bit longer to light because you're pushing the air out of that system, but once it lights, let it run for about 30 seconds and you're good to go. Generally tell customers to go ahead and do that once you pull your unit out of storage or you just refilled your tank, because it will go ahead and cause errors on your tankless water heater system or your furnace. Those are propane operated items. They're only going to go through so many ignites before that system shuts down and gives you a fault. So we come over here, bleed the air out of our stovetop first before we initiate those items. We can go ahead and avoid that problem. Our oven down at the bottom is going to work the same way. Go ahead and turn it down. We'll go ahead and hit our pilot on right there, push that knob down, and then crank it up. Our pilot should light there at the bottom. We want to, once it lights, let it run for about 30 seconds or so. We want to warm up that thermocouple. Then we're going to go ahead and turn it to our desired temperature. That burner tube should light up and we're ready to cook. Now this one can take a little bit longer if you still have air in that line. Your stovetop is going to burn out most of that air for your other features. That pilot takes a little bit longer because it's a smaller hole in there, so it takes a little time to bleed that out. But after you've lit it the first time, after bleeding out that system, everyone after that should be good, of course, until you turn your propane off again. Let's talk about our touch screen right here next to our stove top and everything. We're going to go to our main screen there. At the bottom left is our home. We'll see our house voltage, chassis voltage, just like we did right there by the front door. We're also going to see our front and rear temperatures, what the current temperature is, and then what those AC systems are set at. We also have our fresh gray, black, and propane fill levels right there. We have our Truma water heater right here for on and off. We'll go into that here in a few. We have our water pump, just like that switch outside. We can initiate that water pump from here. Our living room, task lights, backlights, entry light, and then of course our generator start and stop there as well. So this is a quick shortcut sheet right here for a lot of these items. So we'll go over a couple of them. If we click on our AC, it's going to bring us to our AC page, as we can see down here. If we click on our water heater, it's going to bring us to our water heater page right here. So we'll go over this one real quick because this one doesn't have its own page. We have our comfort level, our eco level, and then of course our temperature here, and then our off option. Our comfort level is going to store that water at a certain temperature in a little tank and have it prepped and ready to go. And that will be almost instant water whenever you kick that system on, because it's prepped the water in that system. Now if we go to eco, it'll drop down that set temperature of what it will store in that tank. So it's just going to take a little bit longer for that hot water to go ahead and get going. But once that system gets going, you're going to have endless hot water, of course, until you run out of water itself. You can adjust your temperature gauge right here as far as what you want that temperature output to be at. You can go ahead and turn that system off, keep it on eco, have it on comfort, whatever, ready to go whenever you're ready to run that system. You can hit OK. Our water pump does the same thing from in here. It's going to kick that water pump on, supply water to our system. None of these gauges do anything. Once again here, we could quick shortcuts. We have our generator right there, start and stop. That would be that right button right there. Click that, hold that down, and that will activate our generator. We can also see we have our generator hours right there at the bottom, just like we have at that meter in the front, so we can keep up with maintenance. Then we have our automatic generator system, our start. So if we want to enable this system, we have to hold this down for 3 seconds. We want to heed all the warning about where we run this system. If we're in a closed off area, we don't want to run it because of course it can release CO into a closed off unit. We want to make sure we're in a good ventilated area. So we'll hold this down for 3 seconds, and that's going to activate our AGS system. So what our AGS system is it's an automatic generator start. So we can base it off of our power on our 12 volt system or our AC system, and it will have triggers that will start that generator. So if our house batteries drop down to below 12 volts and for 10 minutes or more, that generator system will kick on and it will begin to charge our batteries off of that inverter system, because of course we're going to have 110 at that point. It'll run for a certain set period of time, and then it will go ahead and shut that system down. We do have quiet hours for that, all that stuff. We'll go into more information when we get to that system on how to make those settings work. We have our light screen right here, goes through the different lights that we have throughout our unit. We can choose to master light on off once again like we did in the front. We have our electrical page right there. Of course, same thing again, our generator settings for off and on. We have our shore power, and we can see a little white line right there. That white line going up, that lets us know we're hooked into shore power, and that's where that transfer switch is pulling that power from. Then we go here, we have our chassis battery, our house battery, our charging info, as well as the mode that our solar system is in. So if we want that solar system off, we can hit off right there, disabled. We can re-enable it. We have our different charge modes that it'll tell you right there. It'll tell you what the panel voltage coming in is, what our charge current is, as well as our charge voltage. We do have some settings in there. You can see some of our charge stats right there. If we want to go in and clear that history, we can. That'll go ahead and change all of our charge history, so it resets it if we change any of our settings. We can go into our charge settings here. We can change the type of batteries that we have on our unit. If they're flooded, gel, AGM, lithium, so on and so forth, we want to go in here and change to the correct one. Now, your unit is automatically stocked with flooded batteries, so that's of course what we have everything set up to. Of course, we have our amp hours right there as well, and then of course that charger ratings for that current system. So we're going to X back out of that, and we're going to go into our 12 volt information right here. Once again, it's going to give us our current stats for all of our stuff and an average of what everything has been. For most people, this is just going to be too much information. So if you want more information on this stuff, this is where you're going to want to find it. Your battery temperature, your percentage of your battery. Generally, if you're using your unit off of an inverter and you're using solar to charge it, this is where you're going to want to go to keep up with what your percentage of battery is at and what you need to do to continue to recharge that system. Now, once again, we do have our change type that we can do on our battery system, as well as our amp hours if we ever change those batteries out to something else. Down here, generator settings. So now we're getting into our generator. Our easy setup right here will give us our settings for that generator, that AGS system. Once again, when the house batteries are low and need to charge, check that box, it'll kick on. When the climate control system needs power because our thermostat says, hey, it's too hot in here, that'll go on. Okay, we can turn those options off and on. So this is like the easiest screen right here. It gives you plain information. What do you want your generator to kick on at? Okay, so the next screen is starting conditions for your low battery. Start my generator at 80% of my battery. That is generally recommended at 60, 20 is your minimum, 90 is your maximum, whatever you want it to be at. You know, if you don't want your generators to get too low, set it at 80. If you recommend it at 60, kick it at 60, whatever your preference is. But I don't suggest putting it down to 20 because those batteries are going to be so low and they'll take longer to charge. And of course, that doesn't help the maintenance on that as well. When do we want our generator to stop? So we want it to stop at 100%, 50%, whatever the case may be, you can go ahead and change that. I want mine to charge to 100%, then my generator can go ahead and kick off. Our next screen will be the minimum amount of time running. So it'd be 10 minutes, we can change it to 11 minutes, more, whatever. Same thing right here for maximum time running. How long do we want that generator to run? 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever the case may be. Choose it, hit next. Enable a quiet time for our generator. So we have quiet hours. We kick that on. We can set, hey, I don't want my generator to run from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. so we don't disturb our neighbors. And if we go ahead and do our quiet time pre-fill right there, if we click that, that is basically going to check this system and say, hey, look, 9 o'clock is approaching. Does my batteries need to be topped off? So then it will go ahead and kick it on prior to that 9 p.m. time, even though one of the other triggers doesn't say it needs it. It's going to go ahead and top those batteries off before that system goes into quiet mode, so you'll have a good charge whenever it goes into that nighttime. And we would hit finish, and now our AGS system is hooked up and ready to go. Now if we want to go into our manual setup, hit manual setup, gives you all the same stuff. It just doesn't give you the language as to what these things actually do. It's just a more complicated way of activating that system. So your preference, whichever one you want to go to as far as setting up that AGS system, but it's a pretty cool, nifty system to have so your batteries don't go dead. We have our AC system. Like I said, we have the AC tab down here. We have our zones, our front and our rear with our current temperature and our set temperature on there. And of course, that's also going to show us that on our screen right here. We can adjust that with our arrows up and down. Now, both of these systems are going to run the exact same way because both of them have a furnace and of course, both of them have ACs. So as I explain it, same thing applies to our rear. So we have AC right there, which is going to be our cool function. When we want our unit to cool, click on that AC. When we want to turn it off, click it again. It will gray out. We have our furnace option right here. We can click. Now when our AC is running, we can choose if we want auto, low, or high fan to be initiated when our AC is working. Auto is going to be when our compressor is going to run, that fan's going to turn on. When our compressor shuts off, fan shuts off shortly after. Or we can do low and high, which means that fan's going to run all the time whether the compressor's running or not. We're also going to have the fan option if we turn our system off. We just want the fan to circulate air. It's not going to cool it, but we can turn it high and low and that fan will actually circulate air throughout our unit. If we want it off, then we just go to auto. That system won't kick on until we kick our AC on. Now our furnace is going to click on right there, and that will be gas powered. Remember, we talked about bleeding the air out of our system before we activate our furnace. Want to go ahead and do that, kick our furnace on, set our temperature. That furnace will kick on, but that air is not going to come through our ceiling vents. It'll be coming through lower vents inside our unit. So just keep that in mind. You're not going to have any hot air coming out of that rooftop AC. It's only out of the bottom levels. Once again, the rear AC is going to work the same exact way. We can hit our settings button up there at the top right. We can change our theme if we want our screen to change from Celsius to Fahrenheit, change our brightness of our screen, change our times for hours and minutes. We can also look for a system update for our software right here if we're hooked to Wi-Fi. We'll go into how to do that here shortly. We have diagnostics. Diagnostics will tell us through our G12 Firefly system what is active on our G12 panel right there. Once again, we say our AC1 is active. If it's not active, those green lights will be off. We go into our M1 panel, just more information as far as what is active. This is all diagnostic stuff that you really don't have to worry about unless you're on the phone with one of our techs or Tiffin. Moving down the line, we have clean mode right here. Clean mode will give you 60 seconds to go ahead and wipe your screen without actually activating anything on it. You can press and hold the button at the bottom to override it. Go back to our main screen. Have our screen settings here. Same thing as the one by our door. Timeout after 1 minute. Go to the default page. We can change what we want our default page to go to right there. If we want it to be lights, power, climate, mechanic, or home. We can go back. We have our wireless settings right there. Our wireless settings are for our switches. Okay, so this is for our slide out switch. See, driver side, seat connected. That is for that little switch right there on that panel we talked about to operate that slide out right there. This is going to be battery operated. So on the back of there, you're going to see your little battery. We need to change that out if our system is not working. We need to change that battery out because, of course, obviously it would be dead. And we can see that through our panel right here. So if that's not green, that little switch is not connected. And there is an override where if you don't have the battery, you can override that switch. So we'll show you that in a little while. Our mobile app is that Mirror Vega Touch system that we talked about in the front. Gives you the same PIN number and ID right here to download that app and control some of this stuff from your phone. Our coach model 36LA, we're not worried about going into a whole lot of stuff on that. That is all diagnostic stuff. It's just telling you that it does have the 36LA in there. And then of course this is your current software version on your unit as well. We can exit out of our settings right there. We can go to our slide out system right here. And we see safety. Our ignition is red right here. That means our ignition isn't running. So we need to crank that ignition up and then we can operate some of our stuff. Same thing for our park brake. If our park brake wasn't initiated, it would be red as well. So right now it's saying slides aren't ready because our ignition isn't on. We know this. Our slides are out right now. Extend and retract is going to be for our rear slide out back there for our bed. Our front slide has that switch by the driver's seat. We talked about override. We would have to hit that button for override. It warns us to check that driver's seat, and there will be a 10-second delay whenever we initiate this thing. So when we go to retract, we have to hold it down for 10 seconds before that slide out will actually come in, because basically it's heeding all warnings. You want to make sure that that seat is scooted up. That way it doesn't hit the slide out. So that's everything on our slide out page. Our last mechanical page right here is for our fans. So we have our galley fan, our mid bath fan, and our rear bath fan. That's all for our max air fans up there. We can go ahead and adjust. We want our lid to pop up, we want our fan to kick on, we want the air to blow in, or we want it to blow out. Whatever we want for all that stuff, we can go ahead and activate it right there. Down here we have our ceiling fan in our bedroom. Have that 110 ceiling fan in there. You can go ahead and activate it from this panel right here as well. That wraps up everything on our touchscreen panel in the kitchen. All right, in our kitchen, we're gonna have that residential refrigerator right here. Bottom, pretty simple. Refrigerator, freezer, pretty simple. Freezer. We have our thermostat right here up at the top. We also are gonna have one on the inside there. And then of course we have our ice maker up there. Now this is a 110 refrigerator, so that means we have to have 110 in order for this to operate. Want it to operate, once again, temperature controls right there. Want it to operate, we need to make sure it's on. If we keep hitting our temperature adjustment controls, we can go to off and shut this system off whenever we go to store it. So in order to have this 110 powered up, if our generator isn't running and we're not plugged in, stuff like that, we have to have our inverter on. Our inverter was over there above our passenger seat. We need to be in inverting mode for this to be operating. So keep that in mind while we're traveling down the road if we want this to be cooling. Now the biggest thing we need to keep in mind with our refrigerator and freezer is when we do go to store it and we shut this system off, turn our battery disconnect off, we turn it off here, whatever the case may be, we need to defrost and wipe everything down. We're gonna have water in our ice tray up here. We're probably gonna have water in here from the defrost of the freezer. We're gonna have water in here from a little bit of condensation from it being cool and now heating up. Wipe all that down, wipe all the water out of your fridge, get the water out of that pan, and then go ahead and leave your doors just propped open so they can air out. If we don't do that, we are putting ourselves at risk for mold and mildew inside that fridge and freezer. We're also putting ourselves at bigger risk because that water will drain out of that freezer, damage our wood components around our fridge. The manufacturer isn't going to participate in that kind of repair. So customer priority to take care, prep that fridge for storage, make sure you get all the water out. So in our living room area, not much to talk about with our TV. We have antenna and cable. We'll take a deeper dive into that when we get to our rear TV. Sound bar, 110 fireplace right here. We can go ahead and kick it on. We do have a timer function on here. As soon as you kick it on, it is going to be heating. You'll feel that hot air coming out of there. This is just electric, not gas or anything. We have our little ambiance right there. That would be the next button to the left, changing all your colors there. And then we have our temperature. So we have our H meaning high, our off. If it goes away, it is just going to be ambiance right there. It's not going to be heating. And of course we have our low function right there. That would be low and high heat. Our timer, like I said, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so on and so forth. Keep clicking until the screen goes out and that timer is off. You can turn that function off right there with the button all the way to the right. We have that IntelliVac system that we talked about in our compartment down there. That's going to lead down to that bag. We do have our setup where we hook our hose in here. We can vacuum our unit all out and all that dirt's going to go to that bag down there in that compartment. So let's move on to our bathroom right here. This is our mid bath. So we're just going to have our one toilet in this system. And directly to the left, we see our bathroom light, our vent fan for our lid right there, which we can control from here, as well as that touchscreen in the kitchen. And then we have our water pump we can activate from here. So you're going to see a lot of redundancy, a lot of double panels basically, where you can operate your water pump, your vents, so on and so forth throughout your unit for convenience. So in here, not much to go over besides our toilet system. This is a pedal valve right here that is going to activate that. So in order to flush it, we just hit that pedal down. Now to talk about our toilets real quick, we're only putting number 1 and number 2 when it comes to terms of sewage. That's number 1 being liquids and number 2 being solids, right? So if it's number 1, hit that pedal, flush it down the drain, you're good to go. If it's number 2, we want to fill this bowl half to 3/4 of the way with water, so we have enough water to send those solids down the drain. We don't have any clogging in our pipes. In order to do that, barely push this pedal down right here, and that water system will start filling that bowl with water. And then whenever it has the appropriate amount, hit that flush button, send it down the drain. Besides that, we're putting RV toilet paper only and our chemicals in there to help decay anything that might be in there, and of course help it keep it smelling nice as well. We're moving into our bedroom right here. Our bed slide, this is one activated through our switch over there in the front. We can go ahead and activate it right here as well, so that we have extend and retract. And our slide out back here is going to be a Schwintek slide. We do have a video that goes over our Schwintek slide system. But a quick tip here, we want to make sure when we operate our slide out, we hold down retract, we retract it all the way. We don't stop midway and hit extend. Long story short, it messes up the timing on here, and that slide out can get stuck over time. So if you hit retract, come all the way in with it. If you hit extend, go all the way out with it before you bring it back in. So just a little thing to keep in mind. That video does go over override on this as well. Another tip is hold it down for extra 5 seconds or so once it's all the way extended or all the way retracted, to make sure that it is extended or retracted all the way. The video also goes over an override for this system if it ever does get stuck, so it's a good video for reference. We also have more fan controls right here, more light controls right here. We can turn this panel light off, so while we're sleeping it's not bothering us. It's that 110 fan we were talking about right there that controls that. This little telescopic ladder right there is for our bunk there in the front that we can drop down below our bed. Have some more redundant controls right there, controlling a lot of the same stuff we see right here. Now below our bed we do have a little bit of storage under there. Then we can throw a couple of things into right there. Now we're moving on, have more storage in here in that closet. We have our laundry hamper right here. Once again, more storage down here at the bottom. But this one, we have another GFCI reset right here. So this would be same thing as our outside one, test and reset. If we have some outlets that aren't working, we want to come over here and reset that system. We have our 110 outlets right, our 110 breakers right here, all labeled as to what they operate. So if we have an issue with any of those components, we want to come here and check it. Moving on down the line, we have our emergency exit activated by our handle right here. Turn that, push it out, we can exit out that window. Up above me, we have that TV for our bedroom. Now we're going to talk about our main components about inside this system. So a little bit hard to see. Let's see if we can get some light on here. All right, so on here, this plate right here, we have our coax and our antenna booster right here. So this is going to be feeding from our antenna on the roof. When we are searching for antenna channels, want to make sure that green light right there is on, initiated by that button there. That will help boost channels in our, boost the antenna to pick up more channels in our area. When we are pulling from cable at the campground, want to make sure that's off so it doesn't scramble the channels coming in from the campground. To the right of that, we have our AB switch. That will go ahead and swap between our two coax options right here on our satellite. So one is hooked to our receiver right here. This one would be for a second receiver right there. So I would swap between that system. Over to the right, we have our WineGuard satellite up on the rooftop. That's how you would kick that on. It is automatic. It's going to find that satellite signal for you. And from there, you just need to make sure that your Wally is active. And below that, we have our DVD system ran out to that HDMI for all of your TVs. Moving into our bathroom, we do have our shower right here. Shower, hot, cold, and shower miser. What is a shower miser? Well, it's that little indicator right there. It actually helps you use your water efficiently. So let's say you're dry camping, you don't have a place to dump your gray tanks, and you only have so much water in your fresh tank. So we have to run our water to get it hot, but we don't want to get in our shower. This is going to let us know when it's hot, and it's going to dump that water straight back into our fresh tank. So how to use it? We hit our shower miser valve right there, point it down. We turn our hot water on, and we watch for this little cap right here. When that water is heated, it is going to turn to a white or light blue type of color, and that lets you know that water's hot. All during the time, it's dumping that water back into that fresh tank rather than your gray tank and your drain. So that water is not going to be coming out of the shower head when our shower miser is active. When we are ready to take that shower, click that valve over. Now the water will go ahead and pipe to our shower head right there, and we're ready to shower. As the warning heeds right there, do not use that shower miser while hooked to city water, because of course it is going to start filling up that fresh tank on your unit and overflow it. We have our little handle right here for our shower door. Want to make sure we put that on. That way we're not damaging our glass door in travel. Have our toilet system right here in the rear. Works pretty much the same way. Number 1, number 2, okay? Except this one's an automatic toilet. We have a little button right here. We have eco mode, normal mode, empty. So eco mode, that's for number 1. Click it, uses less water. Number 2, we have solids, want to use normal, so there's enough water to push that system down. And then of course we have our empty, which would go ahead and flush it without putting any water in our system. So we're trying to evacuate that toilet, get the water out, and prep it for storage. Our little light right here is going to indicate that it's powered on. There is a tank full sensor on here, so if that black tank gets full, it will not empty into your system. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure that our system is evacuated properly whenever we want to operate this toilet, otherwise it won't work. Of course, you do have your manual one in the front if you get in a jam. Another GFCI outlet right there. You'll notice all of them have a GFCI protected outlet sticker on them. If one's not working, you have your one right here to check, the one by your breaker panel or the one outside in accordance with the outlets that are operating. Below that bathroom sink, you're going to see a Truma display right here. That is for that water heater system. We'll go over a little more information on that right now. All right, so we're on the inside on this particular unit. We have this control panel right here with our LED screen. Now, this can control a whole lot more than that water heater. So in some units, you may have this. It'll control your heat, your water heater, all kind of stuff on here. But on this particular one, we're just looking at our water heater. So if we push that knob, we'll see the blinking icon. We can go ahead and push it one more time. That'll let us know that system is off. Then we turn that knob. We have Eco, which, like I said, it isn't going to heat that reserve tank. So it'll take a little while for that water to heat up whenever we ask for it. Now, if we don't want that, and we want that hot water right away when we turn that faucet on, we want to have it in comfort mode, and then it will start heating the water in that tank, waiting for us to demand that we want it, right? So we go ahead, we click that, we figure out which one we want, we click that button, and then we'll see our temperature right there. Now we do have that in Celsius right here, so we're going to go ahead, go over to our settings, temperature, Celsius, we can change that to Fahrenheit, okay? So we go back, hit our back button, go back to that monitor, comfort mode, we're at 120 degrees. So that is what that tank is going to heat up to. Now, if we go back to our eco mode, same thing, we have 120 degrees. And we can change these settings. The max is 120 on here, so you can turn that knob and change it to whatever you want. Now we do have an error code there at the bottom. That is because we don't have any water in this system. So it will flash with any errors on there, and it will tell you, just like the light on the outside, right? So it'll tell you when that system has an issue, and it will prompt you to go to your owner's manual, figure out what that issue is. We're not going to go into all the different codes today. Owner's manual does a good job at running you through certain things and what the issue may be. But this is just our water heater portion right here. One of the last things in our bathroom is going to be our little panel right here. More redundancy, water pump, vent fan, our lid right there above us. We want to use that when we take showers. Reduces the heat and humidity in here, reduces the risk for mold and mildew. And lastly, of course, we have our washer dryer hookups in here. Those models will vary, pretty self-explanatory on how that system works. And that wraps up everything on our Tiffin Open Road 36 LA.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.